Hey, good afternoon. It's funny, as soon as I went live, that looks like the camera blurred. I'll see if I can work on that during the intro. Happy Monday, everybody. Today we're going to talk about credit mix. It's not just as easy as it sounds. We'll get into it. All right. It's a little blurry still, but that is okay. My life's a blur most of the time, so it's kind of appropriate. I am clicking over and getting everything set up so I can hopefully see any comments that come as they come. So feel free to ask questions. Today, we're going to be talking about credit mix. And this is part 4 of the series. So if you've been with me along the journey, we've talked about payment history, we've talked about credit utilization, the length of your credit history, and today we're talking about the mix of credit. This being only 10% of your total credit score makes up 55 points. So what this really breaks down to is let's use a mortgage as an example. If you go and you want to apply for a home loan, and they pull your credit, they're going to want to see more than one account on there, because let's just say I was asking you for $100,000 or $200,000 and you've never met me before. Heck, even if you did know me before, you're going to want to see how I handle money and how I can handle multiple different bills that I've got to make sure that I can handle this amount of money, because you want to make sure that you get paid back. So let's break down what exactly goes into this mix. Um, Now, whether you've established a credit history or you're wondering how to get started on building one, we need to make sure that when you do build one, that there is a good mix, and that's what we're going to break it down for you. And what this does refer to is just different types of credit accounts that there are. Those could be mortgages, loans, credit cards. This all depending on the scoring model, of course, but in general, we want to make sure that this mix is pretty diverse. So, the first one we're going to talk about is installment loans, which is a loan that's paid back with interest through regular payments over a specified period of time. Now, this payment normally stays the same during this repayment process until it is paid in full, and at that point, the account is closed. And a good example of this would be an auto loan. Now, revolving net debt is where you borrow money up to a certain amount, or considered a credit limit, and then you pay it back either as a minimum payment, generally with interest, if you carry that balance over, or you can pay it over in full. Now, the amount owed can also be paid full, like I said, each month to avoid those additional interest charges. But once this amount has been paid back, then it's available to be borrowed again. That's why it's called revolving. You're able to do it over and over and over. This is what most people think of when they think of credit, just because of the word credit cards. Most credit cards or lines of credit are revolving. So once you get that used and you pay it back down, then whatever you've paid down is now available for you to continue to use again. Mortgage accounts is another one. Mortgage accounts differ from other types of installment loans because most you can get either a fixed or variable interest rate. Fixed rates are fixed and they stay the same. Variable rates, variable. Let me speak. Variable rates may change. The last time that we're going to talk about is an open account, and these are where the balance is due to be paid in full each month. An example is well, like for business, I use a fuel card, and so I'll use the card throughout the month to keep all the cars full of gas. And then at the end of the month, when I get my statement, the full balance is due. You're not allowed to make payments on it, and so that would be an open account. And so, based on these 4 different accounts, these are going to be different ways you're going to prioritize your bills. And most of the time, we prioritize our house payment number 1, and then we break things down further into maybe what's not as important, whether it be from house payment down to car payment, down to credit cards, and so on and so forth. So let's just assume now that we're not repairing our credit, but we're establishing new credit and we're trying to build our credit. What would be a good way to go about this if we're thinking primarily about credit mix? So the first thing that I would suggest doing is get some secured credit cards. And the reason I say secured cards is because next week we're going to talk about new credit and in specific hard inquiries. And so if we get a secured card, you're guaranteed to get it because you're putting money down on it and it's low risk for the bank. And the biggest thing that I would say when you're shopping for secured cards is make sure that the card that you're using or that you're applying for reports to all three credit bureaus. Not all secure cards do. And I preach this over and over. If you look at any of my Facebook posts, you're going to realize that I talk about make sure that when you're making financial decisions, you do it with intent and that you have a plan and that you're implementing that plan. Don't just go get a card just to have a card in your wallet. Make sure that you understand the purpose of the card, how you're going to use the card, the plan to keep the balance low, but also make sure that it's reporting to the credit bureaus and all three of them. If you're getting something that only reports to one, you're doing yourself a disservice and your credit a disservice. So make sure that you know and understand that. The other thing that we generally, when you initially when you're learning about credit, when you think, oh, I need a credit card, you think a credit card. But just like this credit mix, the multiple accounts that you can actually show that you can manage and handle, the better it's going to look for your score. So I always say you need between 4 and 6 credit cards open and active. That doesn't mean you're using them every month. I'm not telling you to go get into debt. And that's what a lot of people generally misunderstand about me is when I'm talking about credit repair, when I'm talking about credit education, I'm not talking about getting yourself into debt. I'm talking about using those cards on a regular basis for the regular things you're already paying. So let's say you get an account and you are a new credit card and you want to pay your electric bill with it and set it up on regular payments. Well, you're making that payment every month anyway. Now you're just building credit through it. Same with your fuel. Like I mentioned, I have a fuel card. I'm putting fuel in my cars every single week, if not more. So now I'm using it to build my credit. Same thing can be done with your cell phones and all these other utilities. You just have to make sure that as you're doing these things, that your intent and intentional with them, so that as you're making your regular expenditures and paying them off on a regular manner, that it's also building your credit at the same time. Now, if you don't have, if you're not quite ready to buy a house, there are some other programs that we have that we can talk with you about. Just give me a call. 316-214-8554 is how you get a hold of me. But it's really important, like I said, to go through and make sure, especially as you're building credit, that you're able to get yourself in a position to have a good mix so that when you do need that loan, when you do need to make that application process, that it goes smoothly for you. And be smart. The perfect credit score that everybody wants is to get an 850. It takes a long time to get that. You'll know that by going through the first couple videos. That amount of time that it takes is significant. But as you're in the early stages, that doesn't mean that it's helpless. That doesn't mean you can't get to the 700s really quick. But you have to be intentional and you have to be smart. And what I mean by that is take your time. Don't go out and buy things on your credit card that you wouldn't be buying anyways. Keep buying the same things you have been doing. Just put it on the card and then make that payment. As we're winding down, I don't see any questions coming in, so I'm going to throw out just a couple little hints along the way. As you're doing this, and there's several ways that you can get this mix. The biggest one is just to go out there and get these accounts set up in your name. Again, if you need help, get a hold of me. Let me put up, here we go. Follow me on Facebook, send me a private message. I can help you get into some of these early entry level programs that are going to help you start to establish these different accounts in a smart way that's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. My goal is for you to have a good, solid foundation. And again, just because you have credit doesn't mean you're going to go to the mall and max out a credit card. It means that instead of using your checking account, you're going to use your credit card or a loan, or we're gonna find a good balance for you, so that we're not adding a bunch of additional monthly bills to you. We're gonna just make sure that we're using your regular bills to continue to build and grow your credit, so that when you do need it for that car, for that home, that when you sit down at the table to get all the paperwork filled out, you're not stressed about getting approved or what your credit looks like, because you already know that you've handled that. So all right, man, that was a quick 10 minutes. This one and next week's are going to go fast, because credit mix this week was only worth 10% of your credit score. So 55 points, and that's it. There's not a whole lot to talk about. And just the word mix means a mixture. So you have to have a good, solid mixture, so that your lenders have something good to look at, so that they can justify giving you that loan you're looking for. All right. God loves you. So do I. Have a great week. Send me some messages if you have questions. I'll be happy to answer them. And I'm going to start working on our next series, because next week is part 5. It's our last one.